Hello and welcome to another Tuesdays at 2 with Haven. We hope that you had a great Thanksgiving, whether you got to celebrate normally or not. We hope you enjoyed it and had some rest and hopefully some good food as well. Today we're going to be talking about fireplaces. We could talk about this for hours, but we will just dive into a few little parts of fireplace design today. We'll talk about some terms of the fireplace surround. We will also talk about some materials you can use, and of course we'll show some design styles and ways to use it in your home. So first we're going to talk about the terms of a fireplace. We have the fire box, which is where the fire actually burns and sits. So it's usually set into the wall or it comes out from the wall and is a box. Obviously it's going to be made with materials that are fire resistant, usually brick, but it doesn't have to be. And these are required for any fireplace because you need somewhere to put the fire. Then we're going to talk about the hearth. So the hearth is a more well-known term, but it does have a few components to it that might not be well known. So the hearth has an inner hearth and an outer hearth. The inner hearth is within the firebox. It's the base of the firebox where the wood and everything sits. The outer hearth is the part of the hearth that extends into the room. An outer hearth is necessary if you have a wood-burning fireplace, but it might not be necessary if you have a gas or electric fireplace. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, if you're burning wood, you have more of likelihood of embers and small pieces of the wood kind of spitting out of the fireplace, and we don't want anything in the room to catch fire. So having a hearth that is outer in the room to catch those, if they happen, is a good idea. If you have a gas fireplace, you're not really necessarily burning any material, and therefore you have a lot less likelihood of something coming out of the firebox onto your room. Then we have the mantle. The mantle is the part that is decorative usually. It sits on top of the firebox. Sometimes a mantle has a shelf, meaning that it sticks out far enough that there's a flat surface on the top of it. The shelf is where you would put your decor, maybe lean a piece of artwork, use it for your garland in the Christmas time season, things like that. But a mantle does not necessarily have to have a shelf. A mantle can be flat and not protrude far enough to have a shelf. So those get a little mixed up sometimes. And then we have the cladding or the facing or the breast. This term kind of gets mixed up a lot, and some people refer to it differently than others, but essentially what it means is the decorative stuff that's around your fireplace. So this can be made out of lots of different materials. Obviously you need to do some research and make sure that whatever material you're choosing fits the type of fireplace that you have, and also of course fits your style that you're trying to go for. But you can use pretty much anything from wood to metal to stone. The only thing that's probably out of the question is plastic, but that's probably self-explanatory already. It's really important to understand all the terms of fireplace surround, because if you're working with a fireplace designer, they're going to ask you what types of things you would like, and they're going to give you some ideas, and understanding the terms that they use is important. So when you're building a fireplace, materials are very important. Obviously the firebox, like we mentioned, has to be made out of heat-resistant material because it is where the flames go and will be the hottest part of the fireplace. But the mantle and the cladding are a little more flexible in terms of what you want them to look like. Obviously do your research, make sure everything works together. And also just don't grab that one thing just because it looks good. For example, limestone is a beautiful stone, and it's very commonly used in home decor because it's beautiful and durable and heat resistant. However, limestone stains very easily, especially even just with fingerprints or a cold glass of water on top of it. So if you have a household that has little kids or lots of people in it all the time, limestone might not be the best choice for you. And of course, don't feel like you're limited in terms of your material. Even if you have an older fireplace that's brick, doesn't mean you have to have a traditional style around it. You can paint brick white, which makes it a little more contemporary, or you can paint it black, which makes it a little more modern. Or maybe you have one of the more traditional farmhouse cobblestone sorts of fireplaces. Adding a sleek mantle and maybe an outer hearth that extends and is kind of in a shiny or black color can really modernize that look too, and sort of give you a rustic modern twist. So be creative with it, because the cool thing about fireplaces is that they can kind of be tweaked to fit any style at all. When you're designing a fireplace, you make sure that you also take into account the sides on either side of the fireplace, especially if your fireplace is in the full middle of the room and you have dual sides on either end. This doesn't mean necessarily that you have to fill it with stuff, you just don't want to forget about it. So think about how you want your fireplace to function within your design. If you want your fireplace to be really dramatic and center of attention, then you're going to want to paint a contrasting color on the wall next to it and maybe not really style them very much. Not a lot of artwork, not a lot of shelving, things like that. However, if you want a fireplace that sort of fits within the wall and has some things to anchor it on either side, then you can put in things like built-ins or a gallery wall or maybe a credenza on one side to sort of blend that area together. And then keep everything kind of in the same color palette so that it doesn't stand out too much. No matter what, fireplaces are going to be the statement, but just think about how dramatic you want to go. If you do not have the ability to have a real fireplace, or you want to eventually get one but maybe need kind of a budget-friendly stand-in for the meantime, you can always do a faux fireplace, and there are so many ideas of how to do this online, but one thing we really like to see is taking a vintage mantle with the legs that are on either side and installing that into the wall and using kind of the space that that creates to be sort of a decorative area to fill with books or candles or even logs that you just don't burn. So you can always do sort of a fake one to sort of up the lux factor of a room without the commitment of a full fireplace. And of course, you can use fireplaces outside as well. We love to do that, especially in Chicago, because then you get to extend your patio season for a lot longer. So you could do kind of the more substantial, permanent ones that are fully made out of brick and installed on site. But of course, there are tons of chimeneas or fire bowls and fire pits that are more portable, and you can store them in the wintertime when you're not using them, things like that. So whether you have a wood-burning fireplace or a gas fireplace or a fake fireplace, they're a great chance to make a statement in your design and go bold and have sort of an anchor to your room. So we love them in any and all spaces and any and all styles. If you need any help in deciding what you want to do with your fireplace or how to add one in, of course reach out to us at Haven. We love to help with this kind of thing, and we hope that you got some inspiration for today. Thanks for coming.